Welcome to another Mozsta's Lair podcast. It is 13th of the 5th, a nice Saturday night here in Sydney. I got my man Ricky from London. How you doing, Ricky?
What's up, people? What's going on? It's good to be back.
What's up? So yeah, guys, this time a little bit of change of pace. We're going to move away from our traditional video games discussions and kind of delve into tabletop / board game experiences that me and Ricky have had over the last few weeks. So Ricky, you want to talk about, or I'm really keen on learning about is it a board game called Codename? Is it?
I would call it a board game, even though there's no actual board. It's just a bunch of cards. But yeah, let's call it a board game to keep it simple.
Yeah. So Ricky's been playing this board
it's
game,
a game.
Or card game, if you like. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's a board game called Codenames by Vlada Jadvil and published by Czech Games Edition. And it's a game called Codenames that I discovered when I was traveling over the festive season break with family, and we went traveling around a little bit, and when we were traveling, as you know, there's a lot of downtime. We caught a ferry that took about 3 hours. We were on a train at one point, waiting in customs security, all that fun stuff that everyone knows about.
Yeah.
And my mate had brought it along to play because he had a 10-year-old kid traveling with us. And he brought it along just as something to pass the time and to keep the kid from going insane or driving us insane, asking us all 50 million questions. At first, when I first kind of started playing the game, I was like, you know, just entertain the kid and whatnot. But then as I started to play, I'm like, hey, this is actually pretty good. Ended up picking up a copy for myself, and I've been playing that with friends since. And it's actually, if you go to like dedicated board game shops, it is actually quite well known, and apparently sells quite well also. So man, before, just honestly, because it's like my life's doing a massive circle, right? I'll tell you what I mean. So before you played Codenames, when was the last time you reckon you actually played a board game or a card game? When was the last time I played a board game?
Yeah. Do you do it often, or has there been a big gap?
I don't traditionally play a lot of board games, but the person I was visiting is a video game designer. So as such, he tends to like games. So he's, you know, when you go to his place, he's got a big shelf of like more board games than you could imagine. And it's not your traditional board games like Scrabble, Monopoly. He hates Monopoly. He thinks it's like so flawed as a game design. It's all these obscure, lesser known games that involve quite a bit of thinking and quite different. We played a whole bunch of games when I was there. But yeah, and a lot of them are quite like you really got to get into them, and they've got like, it takes like 25 minutes just to explain the rules, and you know there's 80 rules, and I forgot there's this other rule where, you know, if, you know, and like a lot of them are quite intense, but this one's good. I love it. It's just easy to pick up, and you can play it with new people. That doesn't take them long to figure out what's going on, and you just have fun, you know.
Yeah, the reason I say that, man, is because me personally, like my journey, I grew up in an era just before, I suppose, computers and stuff. You know, we're delivering games and whatnot to the household. So relied a lot on like early board games and Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. And then obviously video games came into my life, and I've kind of taken a hiatus for like maybe 10 to 15 years or 20 years of not even playing board games and stuff. I'd have the odd like card game maybe here or there. But then about a year ago, I really had this yearning to kind of get back into board games, mainly for the social aspect of it, of sitting around the table with your friends and interacting and stuff. So I went and bought like a Talisman, which is an old school Games Workshop game. and I played a couple of sets of that, and then that kind of got me talking to my friends here in Sydney, and we said, you know what, let's do a games night, and we played this other board game called Legacy Epidemic. Anyway, that's now morphed to a regular Thursday night where we're playing Dungeons and Dragons. So I've kind of, like I said, it's like I've regressed back into what I was doing back in the 80s. But I'm really enjoying it though, just as opposed to, I suppose, sitting in a pub and drinking away beers or whatever. We sit around a board and let our imaginations run free and enjoy each other company. Anyway, back to Codenames. So you guys, so sounds like it can be played anywhere. It sounds like it's a bunch of cards. So tell me about the setup. How do you set it out?
Yeah, sure. Look, before I do that, I'll just tell you this game kind of has a story or a theme for it. So I'll explain that first, and then I'll explain how that translates to the actual game. So, the idea is that there's two teams, and each team is a team of spy masters or code operatives, and each team has a leader called the spy master. And the spy master needs to communicate to his team of spies the secret codes of 8 secret agents, and those agents are on the board. So that's kind of a loose theme for it. It lets you know the setting. The way that you actually set it out or deck it out is that there's 25 small cards that are out on the table in front of you. So in rows of 5 by 5. If that makes sense. And on each of these cards is a completely random word. So just to give you a few examples of some words that I'm looking at right now, you've got cat, dog, honey, helicopter, code, turkey, completely different, right? And the spy master from each respective team, they get given a map, and on this map they will show you that the teams are red versus blue, which is a common gaming theme, and so if you're team red, you'll know you've got 8 red cards on the board that there's 8 red codes on the board that you've got to communicate to your team, and if the other guy's blue, he'll see that he's got 8 blue codes that he needs to communicate to his team. Right.
So let me just stop. So it's 8 out of 25. Is it? You got 25 cards, and 8 of them are your agents.
Yeah, that's right. Excuse me. So one team has 8, the other one has 9. It's done randomly based on the map. So. And it's kind of hard to explain, but the reason so whoever has 9 to gets to go first, basically, and because they get to go first, they've got the onus is on them to get an extra code out there. So it's recommended that you play 4 people to 8 people. So obviously you've got the spy master for each team, so that's 2 people, and then you need 1 other teammate each, and you can go up to 8 as well. So you can that's how that works. And then the spy masters take it in turns. So I might go first, right? And I can, as a clue, I can only say one word. So let's say dog. Let's say dog, for example. You would say, right? So canine. Can you say canine? You can say anything you like. So the thing is, you've got to say how many of the codes on the board are related to your one-word clue.
Right.
So just then, for example, we had as clues cat and dog. So you could say animal for 2, right? Animal for 2. There's 2 codes. So that one would be pretty easy if you were lucky enough that the codes that you randomly put out on the board correlated with the map, right? It's all a bit random in the way that they're set out. So that would work. And then the other thing is there's the word turkey. So you might have cat and dog on red codes, but then there's turkey in the way, and that could be a blue code. So that's not what you want. So if your teammates guess that word, then they're giving a point to the other team. All right. So So what you do is you say your clue, and then it's up to your teammates. You're not allowed to say anything else as a spy master. You just say the one word, and then you've got to have the ultimate poker face. You're not allowed to nod. You're not allowed to shrug. You're not allowed to say anything, right? And obviously, you've obviously got to play with people that understand it's just a game, and it's have a bit of fun with it. If you're going to play with people who are ultra competitive and need to win, then there's a very obvious ways to cheat. So bear that in mind.
You have to wear a mask.
Yeah, go out of the room or something. I don't know.
Wear a gimp mask so there's no expressions at all.
And
you
so
just
then
open up the zipper. You open up the zipper. You say your word, then you zip it up.
Go into a vault. And so then it's your field operatives' turn to operate. So they've received the clue. They can talk as much as they want, and it's people that are new to the game won't talk. But then, as you play more, you realize the more that you talk, you let the codemaster know what you're thinking, and therefore they know how they can structure their clues and so forth moving forward.
Oh man, I could already imagine like my team talking to me or expressing how they're thinking, and me. It'd be so hard to stay expressionless, wouldn't it? Like,
it is.
Nod or raise your eyebrows, like as in you're close. It's so fucking freaking hard, man.
It's so tempting, and like obviously. You want to do it. You want to give them that, but at the same time, that's ruining the game for yourself because otherwise it'd be too easy, right? So you just kind of sit there, and sometimes they're like, if it's cat and dog and the clue's animal, sometimes you're like, it's got to be cat, right? Yeah, like cat, that seems right. And in your mind, you're thinking yes, go. But then they'll say something randomly. But isn't there like a helicopter called like tiger, and then they'll say something completely obscure and random, and in your head you're just thinking like it's so obvious right in front of you. What the hell are you thinking? But it's just fun basically. So then the code operatives, or the field operatives rather, when they're ready, they will touch the word when they're ready to select it, and if they're right, you cover that with either a red card to indicate that yes, it was your team, a blue card if it was the other team's clue. There are there's 25, so there's 7 what's called innocent bystanders, so that means no one gets a point. And then the last one is there's an assassin. So if your field operative goes to that spy to contact them, they actually turn around and there is an assassin and they kill them, and then your team loses the game.
Immediately, instant death.
Instant death.
Oh wow!
Game over.
Wow.
So
Jesus, so you'd be having, as a spy master, heart palpitations if they start sort of steering towards the assassin's code word or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah. And sometimes you'll just you'll give out a clue and you won't look too carefully at what the assassin word is, and then you're like, oh man, I've just ruined that whole game for myself.
No.
And so I've introduced this game to quite a few new people now, and when I introduced them to it, I said to them, look, I'm going to have the first game as the spy master, so I'll give out the clues and you can be on the receptive end. And then after we do that, we switch the game around. They become the spy master and I'll be the clue guesser. And it's like this light bulb moment, because they're like, now I see why this game is so clever and so hard, because once you're given the map of where the red codes are and the blue codes, and you can't give out a clue that's that they're going to immediately score for the other team. It gets very tricky to figure out a one word that can be related to 2 or 3 or 4 different codes, but you're not going to give away anything to the other team.
So really, to kill this game, you need your spy master to have a really large vocabulary, which is definitely not my talent. And you kind of need everyone else to be able to understand that vocabulary as well, don't you? You need a whole bunch of English students, by the sounds of things, English majors. So you've got these 25 cards on the deck. you got these two teams with one spy master, and the rest of them are field agents. And the spy master knows where his agents are, and does he know where the assassin is too?
Yes, yeah. You can see the whole map. You can see the opposite team's agents. You can see your agent, and you can see the assassin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he drops these one-word clues with. You said he's allowed to say a number, right? Like how many cards this clue kind of encompasses. Is that
That's right? Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and then they have a chat about it. The team has a chat about it, giving the spy master several heart attacks as they veer off course and come back on course and veer off course. Then they select one card. If it's your agents, you've knocked down 1 out of 8, and you've got 7 left. Is that the aim of the game, to get all of your agents? And
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Once you get all of your agents have been contacted, you win the game. Yeah. And it's the first one to do it. So,
I'm just
yeah, you're trying to visualize it. So, like you said, it helps if you know the other person really well. So I've played this with family members, and we obviously know each other very well. And we've got all these video games that we've played together. So you might be like, I don't know, Rings, Sonic the Hedgehog, or I don't know, some obscure clue that no one else is going to get. But you two, like the two of you, will be in sync, and then everyone else around the board is like, what just happened?
Is there?
Yep.
No, go on. Yep. Sorry.
So yeah, so if you know your teammate really well, then that helps a lot. I wouldn't necessarily say you need to have a great handle on the English language, because it's just a little bit about thinking differently about words and how they might be used. You're gonna have that situation so often where you're going to have a word that you use it in completely different context. And as I've said that, I just cannot think of an example. They've all jumped out of my head. But I mean, with words, there's multiple different meanings for a single word.
Yeah.
And so you've just got to be willing to think a little bit left of the center a little bit.
Box. Yeah.
And
so, you got to keep away from the assassin word, though, right? But the assassin word could have the same theme as several other cards. Is that right? Like, it could be an animal. You could have cat, dog, and duck, and the duck could be the assassin, for example.
Yeah, exactly right. So I gave you that example of cat, dog, turkey, right? Let's just say that the assassin was dog, right?
Yeah.
And then your agents were cat and turkey. So then it's like you can't say animal, right? You can't, you know what I mean?
No, I don't know what the hell I want to say. I'm like, I'm already stuck.
Yeah, exactly. So you might be like, I just need to leave that alone completely. There's an expert rule, which is you can say there's zero words on the board related to this. So you could say there's 0 words on the board related to canine.
Right.
Canine, 0 words. So then they know, okay, it's not a dog. But if he said canine, he probably means animal, right? So then you're, as a guesser, you're like, probably.
Oh, so you can use the inverse and use 0.
That's what's so great about this game. There's so little that you can do as the clue giver, right? As the Codemaster, there's so little you can do, but it can mean so much. So as a concept, it's so basic, but like you said, then you're like, so why he can use any word, why would he use canine? He's used, because it's related to animals, but he can't, but he's excluded dog, right? So it gets quite deep in that sense. It really makes you think about.
You got to have a sense of memory, Rick, or not? Like, let's go back to the animal example, right? Like cat dog thing, and the assassin is the dog. So I'm just thinking right now as a spy master, one of my first clues would be canine 0, just to eliminate anyone ever choosing the dog because the assassin's there, right?
Okay.
And then the next round I would say animals, hoping that they remember that I said canine 0, but animals is okay. So look at other animals. build a story.
Yeah, absolutely.
I suppose as a spy master.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So let me just build this out a little bit more because just the way that the logistics of the game work. So you give out your clue, animal for 3. Let's say cat, dog, turkey are all red, right? So your team will touch whatever word they think first. So cat, so they get a red card, which is yours. Because they got that right, they get another turn.
Nice.
So then, so you said animal for 3. So dog. So you touch that again. And then for the third one, let's just say they get it. They make a mistake, right? And they choose helicopter. Then let's just say the other team gets that. Because they got that wrong, they don't get any more turns. It's the other team's turn to go. So if you make a mistake, that can really just stifle your progress. But the other thing that you can do is if you get all 3 right, so you go cat, dog, turkey, and then like you said, from a past clue that you got wrong, you've got a suspicion as to what the word is. You can actually guess up to 1 more than the amount of clues you've given out on the board. So you can just get a fourth guess for free, and it might have been that in the last round they had said animal, and you're like, I think it was this, and you can go ahead and guess that as well. So that like you said, through the course of the game, you can build in a story, and if your field operatives are savvy to that, they can pick up and they can run with it.
If they remember what the previous questions were, they can build off that. So man, I'm loving this game. I already love the fact that it's such a simple, like I played Talisman and Epidemic, and it's a massive board game with bits and pieces and stuff. Great games, but the logistics of it is a little bit of work, to set things up and whatnot. This sounds like you just dish out 25 cards onto a table, and a few maps and stuff to the spy masters, and off you go.
Oh yeah. Let's just get into it. So that's exactly right. And I just want to talk a little bit about the rhythm of the game. When you set up and you're looking at these 25 words brand new, and only 8 of them are yours, and you really don't want to give away a clue that belongs to the other 8 on the board, or 9, including the assassin. When that happens, it just takes you a little bit of time to compute in your brain, what do I want to do, get the lay of the land, and think about some clues. So it can just take a few minutes, literally 5 minutes of just sitting there while the person who goes first has to think of what they want to say. So the pace of the game starts off usually quite slow, and I think if no one knows each other, maybe it might be a little bit awkward. But I think if you're all mates, you can just talk about whatever, And then when they're ready to go, then you start. And then as the game progresses and you get into turns 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, then as a spy master, you've already had time to think about it, and you've already got a pretty decent idea of where you want to go. So it tends to get quicker as the game goes on. But I think it's just worth saying that it can start off a little bit slow, especially depending on how tricky it is, and as the game goes along, it builds up in pace and intensity, and you don't want to give away that assassin clue. But I like your strategy of saying 0 for like Canine, for example, as the assassin. I hadn't thought about that before. Just to immediately eliminate the.
Provided everyone remembers,
yeah. What did he say about Canine again? Yeah. No.
And also, I'm just thinking, like, it can make up some funny things. Like, people will make mistakes as well. Like, I don't know. Let's say canine, right? Let's say there's like canines, obviously animals with like 2 large front teeth or fangs, right? And maybe someone on the other side or one of your field agents actually doesn't know what a canine exactly means, so they misunderstand that clue, if you like. So it kind of depends on people's knowledge as well of things, If you use complex words, or I don't know, just like, let's say someone says it's not a vegetable, and like someone thinks tomato is is
right, and that's the fun of it,
whatever, right?
Yeah.
So they can make some.
Yeah.
You're like, God damn it! I told you it's not a vegetable. Since when is
Yeah. I mean, I played once with a family member of mine, and he gave the clue like medieval, and I think there were words on the board like clues on the board. Robin, there was knight, and there was arrow. And I immediately tapped, I think, arrow. And he in his mind, he wasn't thinking arrow as in archery. He was thinking arrow as in like a sign on the wall that points you somewhere, if that makes sense. And so he just to him, he just didn't even think of it in that context. And of course, that was the assassin. So we were immediately eliminated. But yeah, there's little things like that you've just got to be ultra careful about. But you know what? It's fun at the end of the day, right? Like it's not one of those games where you go and you're guaranteed to have a good laugh. I've never used this in the time that I've been playing, but if at any point you feel as though someone is taking too long, there is a egg timer. Anyone can pick up the egg timer and turn it on its head, and then they've got until the end of that time to say their clue. Personally, I feel it's a bit of a dick move. You wouldn't really do that in the spirit of the game, but it is there. You get 400 codes in total, so there's 25 in any one game, so having 400 gives you a bit of replayability. And that's pretty much it, man. Doesn't require a lot of setup. I think it's very accessible to anyone, provided they've got a relatively decent language skills. Very accessible, and they say it takes about 15 minutes for a full game, so you can play it quite quickly. And then
15.
That's what they recommend. Yeah, that's what they suggest.
Oh, nice. That's how much a World of Tanks game is on computer. Yeah. No, man, it sounds like a really cool party game. I reckon you could just bring a whole bunch of strangers at a party together and quickly get it up and running and start playing it. That's awesome.
Absolutely, yeah, that's exactly what I think, and it's great for new people because they can play it and learn it and have fun. But it's also great for people that have played it quite a few times because you kind of learn about each other over time and how to work with one another. So your teamwork gets more. And
actually, when the other spy master, so the opposing spy master, is giving clues, everyone should be learning off that as well, because that's kind of what not to choose.
Exactly right.
The clues that he's giving. So both spy masters giving clues is quite critical. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes with board games, even like with Talisman, there's this what we call like a downtime, right? Where it's not your turn, it's someone else's turn. And I found if you're playing like after half an hour or 40 minutes, if it's not your turn to do something, people start kind of floating away from the game and like looking at their phone or kind of drifting away. And there are some games that just keep you constantly engaged, and it seems like this is one of those games. There is no downtime, because whether it's your spy master giving you a clue or the other spy master giving their team a clue, you need to be listening to both spy masters really. And I just think it's entertaining looking at watching the other team trying to figure things out as well. So you're constantly engaged by the sounds of it, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And even if you're just watching, it's just funny to see the other team like pick a wrong code or talk about what they're thinking. Or it reminds me of that show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but like often Eddie will phrase the question and the other team will like talk about what they're thinking, and it's just interesting to see. The only downtime I would say is, like I said, when the spy master is thinking about what clue to give. As a field operative, you'll literally just sit there especially if you're going second, you'll literally just sit there for a few minutes like waiting for those guys to think about what they want to say, and that's the only downtime. After that, first two rounds, it goes pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah. So have you in your games? Have you like had like someone win like in the first round, just clean it up? Has that happened yet? In your experience?
They're usually pretty close.
Like
but
a slam dunk?
Yeah, we've had a couple. I mean, the real slam dunk is when you first clue you get the assassin. That's the real.
Actually, you're right. That means the other team wins in the first round. Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we played with a 10-year-old, and even though obviously he wasn't quite as good, it's always relatively close, even-ended. Like, so there's 8 or 9 code or agents on your team, and convincing would be like 9-5. That's pretty convincing. Yeah. That's a bit of a smashing, really. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm just looking at it now. Codenames. It's in Australia. It's $27.99, which is pretty good value. It's you said it's got 400 codes, so it's definitely replayable.
Absolutely.
Which is which is awesome.
And you can just take around like the cards. They come in like a little plastic sleeve. You can take them around. So if you do want to travel with them, it's very portable, which is pretty awesome. And again, very accessible, and it's just great. Like you said, when was the last time you played a board game? And whenever you do play a board game, it's the same culprits. All right, it's always Scrabble or Monopoly or all those games that everyone knows. This is just something completely different, and it's just very fresh.
So apparently, the creator, he's Vlada. How do you pronounce his surname again?
I think I'm not an expert, but I believe it's Chatville.
Chatville,
I don't know.
Jatil or something. He's made a few other games as well. He's actually seems to have. He's quite famous apart in the board gaming world, it seems.
Yeah. So like I said, the publisher is Czech Games
There
Edition.
you go. The game, this game, man, has reached 17th position in the Board Game Geek ranking of games of all time. 17th out of 84,000.
Wow, 17.
It won 2016 Spiel des Jahres. I don't know, that must be some some European award. Anyway, it won the 2016 Spiel des Jahres Game of the Year, the most prestigious game award worldwide. Boom! You've picked the winner, Ricky.
Yeah, exactly. And just recently, they've released it for iPad. So I don't know. I've not tried that. I don't know how it works. I mean, if you wanted to play with someone long distance, I guess you could, right? But obviously, it's a kind of game where it's better to be in the same room as someone. But no, it's a good game. Really good game. Highly recommended.
Great.
Check it out.
Codenames. So you need a minimum of 4 players, right?
Yeah. So that's for the standard.
You can't play with 2 people, right?
There is a modified version that you can play with 2 people, and this is I mean, it's not as good, right? But you can do it. So 2 people, one person is the spy master, the other is the field operative. You have your turn, and then you play against, I call it the computer, and every turn they just get 1 point. So as the spy master, you just give them a blue code. And then you just take turns.
So you got to win in 8 rounds, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly, and you can't make mistakes.
Yeah, okay. That's how you play with
if you just
your girl
if
on the
it's
road.
just 2 people, and you're just traveling around and whatever, you just play that. It's not nowhere near as good. You can win pretty easily. But it's just
still, it's pretty good. They've built in a mechanic for 2 people sitting on a train. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's still pretty good. Awesome, man. Codenames.
That's it. Check it out.
Check it out, everyone. We just wanted to do a board game thing because I don't know. You started playing a board game, and I've been playing board games and in D&D just over the last year. I've actually got a really good, I don't know, Ricky, if you're really into it or not, but I've got a really awesome webpage that kind of reviews and talks about board games. Let me just find it. These people are not in any way associated with us. I just really like their webpage. It's called shutupandsitdown.com.
Oh, right, okay.
And they do really good reviews, man, on board games. And in fact, dude, if you want to learn how to play Epidemic Legacy, just go on their webpage and they do an awesome tutorial as well. So I highly recommend shutupandsitdown.com.
Right, yeah, a bit of free advertising for them, huh?
Yeah, why not? They're legends. Love their webpage. So yeah, guys, thanks for listening in. That was our little episode on board games and whatnot. Everyone, be good, take care of yourselves, and we will catch you